Alright, this low effort vlog, I'll go through some movie recommendations entirely from the spreadsheet I have on movies worth watching. Shit, I need to remember some of these. 10 Cloverfield Lane is really good. You got John Goodman in a really, really good role. Uh, Kubrick. I guess I'll like, for movie people, if you're wanting recommendations, it's like, you probably already know Stanley Kubrick or 12 Angry Men. I'll go through like 12 Angry Men's a classic. 2001 the same. 28 Days Later is not a classic, but it's kind of cultish. 36 Chamber of Shaolin's like good kung fu shit. If you like the old kung fu movies. Uh, Beautiful. Yeah, it's like a Best Picture winner, I'm pretty sure, so it's not exactly a surprise that it's a good movie. A Cat in Paris it's like an animated film. I think French. I don't know where it was made, but it's pretty neat. Uh, Sergio Leone, yeah, the Man with No Name trilogy and the Once Upon a Time in the West are like, pinnacle westerns. Cronenberg makes some neat movies. History of Violence being one of them. Uh, A Scanner Darkly is one of Keanu Reeves' weirder movies. It's like the whole thing is as like a not so it's like rotoscoped, cell shaded, computerized graphics put on everything just to make it look really fucking weird. I guess like I can Google this shit and you just look at images and it's got like weird colorization to it, and that's like throughout the whole movie. It's looks cool though. Uh, Series of Unfortunate Events, just because it's one of Jim Carrey's funnier roles. He's a real hit and miss for whether or not the characters he plays are funny. Like he always does them, I guess, as well as it can be. Coen Brothers, another. It's like if you just want recommendations for directors, Kubrick, Coen Brothers, Cronenberg, a little weirder but still pretty good. Richard Linklater as well. I'm pretty sure Linklater made a few like particularly well-known movies. I can't remember off the top of my head though. Uh, AI, I think, was originally like a like Kubrick before he died in like I think '99 or something. He was working on this. Spielberg finished it. It's really cool. I particularly like Jude Law's character, Gigolo Joe. He does a really good job there. Abominable Dr. Phibes. If you like Vincent Price, this is like one of Vincent Price's best movies or roles. The Act of Killing. I usually don't watch that many documentaries. This one, it's about the Indonesian genocide. Well, I don't know if it was genocide. What would be it like when you're killing people of a political belief? Politicide? Whatever the term is. They straight up massacred like thousands and thousands of communists and like brutally murdered a lot of people. And this is a documentary about mainly about like two of the guys who were just like overtly they were like, yeah, we killed a lot of people, and they're just talking about how they just brutally murdered a ton of people and their lives after the fact. It's really weird. You don't usually see people talking openly about that kind of shit. Airplane, if you haven't seen it, is one of the greatest comedy movies. Akira, one of the greatest like action animated movies. Aliens, they're both good. All Quiet on the Western Front, classic. Cultish. Actually, wait. It was almost. Did that get a lot of fame? I know it's like a lot of people like it. I don't know if it was like a huge box office hit or anything. Alphaville, yeah. I feel like this is like a. Fuck, what is it? George Orwell's 1984. It's like an American spy goes to like this country. It's in French, and it's the whole thing's run by this like it's like the state's like it's just like a pure logic, no emotion shit, and it has some really memorable scenes. It's a good movie. Uh, Amazing Spider-Man. I prefer the Sam Raimi ones just because they're more fun. Amelie, another French movie, but this is like pretty famous. I think it's one of the most of the French movies that are famous out in like North America. This is probably one of the more well-known ones. If you haven't seen it, recommend it. American Beauty. I guess I'm really good at separating the actors from the crimes they've committed. Kevin Spacey's probably not as bad as Harvey Weinstein or some of those guys, but I still fucking like American Beauty. I guess the same goes for Usual Suspects. Like, even if he's a piece of shit, I mean, he's a good actor. Bit of a American History X has Edward Norton in probably the most iconic role I've seen him in. Outside, at least I would consider it more iconic, like in terms of the shit I remember from it compared to what is it? The one I imagine most people know him from, Fight Club. Just like American History X, it's like super racist white nationalist dude, and some pretty brutal shit happens in the movie, but it's a good movie. American movie, the fucking I can't remember the name of the dude who made it, but they're just really cool dudes who are like, let's make a movie. And you even have an interview on David Letterman that's fucking hilarious. American Splendor, I think, it's a biopic / documentary about like a comic dude, but it has Paul Giamatti in it. I really like Paul Giamatti. Anomalisa. This is a film that was like doomed to be box office poison. It's just like super artsy puppet movie. It's basically like this one dude. Everyone in everyone in the world, they have the same voice to him. He only hears like this one voice, his own, and then he finds someone named Lisa who it's like they have like an actual different voice, and he's like, holy shit. It's weird, but I'd recommend it. I think it has the unique the Anomalisa and I think Team America World Police are the only movies I've seen that are like feature films with puppet sex. If you're into that shit. Antiviral. I think it's made by David Cronenberg's son, actually. Or directed by it. David Cronenberg's son. It's a really like creepy movie of like where celebrities, people of how like the fame of celebrities, everyone wants to like see them, be like them, and this is like the viruses or like infections they've had. People like buy them to like I'll be infected by the same shit that infected whatever fucking celebrity person, and it's pretty fucking weird. Apocalypse Now. It's if you haven't seen this, like fucking watch it. It's good. Army of Darkness from the Sam Raimi, the Evil Dead movies. They're all worth watching. Evil Dead 2 is probably like the easiest to recommend. Army of Darkness is more comedy than anything else. It doesn't really have any of the horror that the first two movies tried to pull off. Babadook, yeah, like horror movies in general. It's like if the point of the movie is the horror, then it's probably a shit movie. But if it's about like suspense and like it's just a sub thing, like if the horror is used to fuel suspense or some other thing, then it can be really good. And like the Babadook or one of my favorite movies, not just horror movies, but any movies, The Thing, 1982 with John Carpenter. It's just where the thing is like it's an alien where it's like anything it touches, it kind of just like absorbs, or no, like the individual cells, it'll like take over their body, and it's like just pure paranoia and just it's fucking creepy. It's good shit. Would recommend. Where the fuck was I? It was on the Babadook, right? That was up here. Uh, Back to School. I think this movie has Rodney Dangerfield. He had a few film roles. Caddyshack and this one I think were the best. Because I know he's been in a few films that are just like weren't that great. But Rodney Dangerfield's fucking funny, so you should watch that. Bad Milo's kind of funny. It's like this guy who's like there's like this little imp demon that lives in his ass, and whenever he gets really angry, it comes out and tries to like kill or destroy whatever's making him angry. It's kind of funny. Barefoot Jen. It's about and it's an animated movie about like a family in like I think Hiroshima. Yeah, Hiroshima, not Nagasaki. When the bombs dropped on Japan, and it's got some pretty brutal footage in it. Barry Lyndon, Kubrick, anything with Kubrick or Coen Brothers, Christopher Nolan, like some directors. Like I don't list all the directors, just like I have this file for any of the directors who've directed like more than one movie on this list. Because if it's a one-off, it's like I don't even bother. Battle Royale. Now this is like I guess some people might consider this a horror movie, but it's like the horror is used to like fuel like the action or the tension, where it's like just like it's like a Japanese movie where it's like a class of like high school students who they're just kind of put on an island. They're like, all right, last one alive gets to live, and it's not like what is it, the Hunger Games, where it's all like trained soldiers and shit. It's like these are just kids. They're students, and it's like most of them are like, we don't want to do this, and it's so like the psychological aspect is a lot more visceral. Battlefield Baseball would be like the same thing, but it's entirely a joke, where it's like a Japanese team, kids playing baseball, but they just beat the living shit out of each other. And I think it's also a zombie movie. Like this is not, it's a shitty movie, but it's fun enough to be on this list. Be Kind Rewind, it's a Jack Black movie. I think Most Def is in it. It's kind of weird. I always find it weird when rappers go turn actors and they're like, they're not that bad. I think Most Def was also in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I don't know if he's been in anything else. Probably has. Being John Malkovich. I very much recommend this movie, but it really is not for everybody. It's like, it starts as like, you know, lots of classic comedy, just like goofy gags, and it turns into some like really weird psychological shit, and it's like it's just fucking weird. Bicycle Thieves. Yeah, I think there's two. Yeah, I've seen two movies from this dude, Vittorio De Sica. Two movies from him are on this list: Bicycle Thieves and Umberto D. And they're very like personal movies about like, you know, this one's about like a dad who like he really needs this job and he needs a bike to you know, keep the job, and it gets stolen, and it's about the bicycle thieves, and it's like a very personal, like you really feel like there's a sense of like, you know, you care about this dude's family. And like in Umberto D, it's like an old man. He doesn't really have any family. He has like his dog, who's basically his only like real friend, and like a maid who works in the building he lives in. And it's just, both of the movies I've seen from this guy, they're just really bleak, of like people who are like, it's like a good guy who's in a shitty world and shitty stuff happens, and they're good movies though. Yeah, Big Lebowski, John Carpenter, Birdman. Yeah, it's like you would probably like Birdman a lot more if you've seen any kind of plays or like stage work, because one of my favorite parts of Birdman is just how like it's about a guy who like used to be a big. It was kind of like he's known for like these like shitty movies he did in this, like, you know, 30 years ago, and now he's like doing stage acting, and the play they're doing is fucking awful. It's so fucking bad. That's probably my favorite part about the movies. It's just every scene where they're like showing a new part of the play, and it's just fucking terrible. Uh, it's a really good movie all around, though. Black Dynamite is hilarious. It's like a like 2009 like blaxploitation film from the 70s of. So Black Dynamite is like the name of this like super cool dude who's like he like do all the kung fu shit, beat the shit out of people, just you know tearing down Whitey. Some good shit. Black Sheep is I think a New Zealand zombie movie where only the sheep are zombies. It's pretty funny. That and what's the Peter Jackson film? Brain Dead. It's down here. They're both like New Zealand zombie movies that are like fucking good. Like they're just they don't even try to hide the fact that it's not a comedy because it's just all comedy and it's pretty fucking good at it. The Blade movies are just fucking fun. Blade Runner, these are like both are really good. You should check them out. Blazing Saddles. This movie is racist. And it's still fucking funny. Like most people have it on their top 10 list for comedies, which is kind of interesting. Blind Fury has a Rutger Hauer, who's in Blade Runner. He's the like android villain dude. He plays like a Zatoichi, the blind swordsman dude, but he's American, and it's like an American Zatoichi with Rutger Hauer. The Blob. This is like where the Thing with John Carpenter is like just really fucking good. The Blob with what's this dude, Chuck Russell. It's not as good, but it hits the genre perfectly of what it's supposed to be, of like campy but like still having those horror elements in there. If you want to watch like big dumb horror movies, I'd recommend it. Blow Up. This is a real fucking weird film with like kind of like I don't know if it's no. I guess it's the equivalent of an unreliable narrator, in fiction. It's like Blow Up. There's a lot of shit where you're not sure. After the halfway point, you're like, what's really happening here? Blue Ruin is really good. It's about a dude who's like, he's like a homeless drifter, and he learns that the person who like killed his dad killed his dad like years ago, that kind of made him the loser he is now, has just got out of prison. He's like, I'm gonna go kill this dude. And in the first like 10 minutes of the film, some shit goes down, and then like the main part of the film is like the aftermath. David Lynch movies are not for everyone, but if you like abstract art, like what's his name, Jackson Pollock paintings and stuff, then you'll probably like David Lynch movies. If not, you probably wouldn't, because that's kind of what his movies are like. Bothersome Man is really neat. It's like a, what is it? High theming. What's the name of it? Fuck. The movie's in like a. It almost seems like an afterlife sort of weird little city where no one really. There's no like feeling, no one or sensations. Everything's just bland and normal, and no one can, really experience shit there. And it's about a guy who's bothersome, and he's trying to like do something about it. It's neat. The Bourne movies are pretty alright. The Boys from Brazil. This one is shit, it's really neat. It's like a Nazi hunter. He learns that like Joseph Mengele, he's in like a certain country, and he's like, yeah, he's like been there for a while, and he's kind of like no one can really get to him. and he learns that some guys are kind of hunting him down, and then as it turns out, Joseph Mengele, who's like the Nazi doctor who did all sorts of evil shit, well, he's still doing evil shit, and the Nazi hunter dude, he kind of finds him, well, finds like the plot. He's slowly you find like the plot he was and the shit he's doing, and it's like it's an interesting movie. Would recommend. Brain Dead, as mentioned before, it's a Peter Jackson movie. Most people probably know him from Lord of the Rings. I know him from fucking Brain Dead, like, and the Frighteners with Michael J. Fox. They're both like horror comedies. Brain Dead is like probably the more accessible one, just because of how like stupidly funny it is. Brazil with Terry Gilliam is kind of another like not quite David Lynch surreal, but like it's a fucking weird movie. It's also another one that's like I think loosely based on 1984. Brother, it's an American movie with Takeshi Kitano, who also made a Zatoichi movie. He made like the Takeshi's Castle, which was in America or North America, it was like Most Extreme Elimination or whatever. It's like that show is based on like something this dude did. He also made like a Nintendo game, Takeshi's Challenge, which is just like a really fucking weird game. The dude's like he's done a lot of different shit that's all cool. Bubba Hotep, what's his name? Bruce Campbell, who's in the Sam Raimi Evil Dead movies. He's like Elvis with in like a retirement home, and like one of his buddies is JFK, and they're both like they have like weird bullshit explanations for why like yeah that really is Elvis and JFK, and there's like this old geezer like ghost thing who's like Bubba Hotep who is haunting them, and he's just as like decrepit and shit. It's a really fucking funny movie. Buster's Mall Heart. This one's fucking weird. It's got Sam Raimi, who was in Mr. Robot, that dude. I think he's also starring in a Queen biopic as Freddie Mercury. It's where he's like he plays a schizophrenic character, and it's unreliable narrator. You see a lot of weird shit. You're not sure what's what. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, good western. Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is, I guess, wouldn't even like I consider this like I see this and I think German expressionism with like painted shadows and weird smoke effects, or not really so much smoke effects, but like it's black and white, but what's black, what's white isn't necessarily light, what's black isn't necessarily shadow. There's all sorts of weird effects to a like obscure perspective, and this is a really good example of it. It's a neat movie, silent movie. I know some people probably hate those. Caddyshack, really famous comedy. I really like Will Ferrell movies, even though they're like half of them aren't that great, and the other half it's like the good ones. It's like everyone knows about, but The Campaign I think is pretty fun. Philip Seymour Hoffman, every fucking role he's in, he just fucking nails it. Capote being no exception. I think, we also passed by a few others like Big Lebowski and what is it? A Serious Man? No. I'm gonna look at one of these. A Single Man? No. One of these he's in. But where am I? Carnage. Again, Roman Polanski's a questionable person, but there's no doubting his directorial talents, and Carnage is a really cool movie. John C. Reilly. I first knew John C. Reilly from like Will Ferrell movies, and then I watched a bunch of other movies, and I was like, wait a minute, John C. Reilly is actually a really good actor. Carnage being one of the movies is in where he's just good. Casa de Mi Padre, probably one of my favorite Will Ferrell movies. Casablanca, Scorsese. The Daniel Craig Bonds are all pretty good, except the Quantum Solace. Castaway and the I actually prefer Swiss Army Man to Castaway. They're both based on, a guy like just stranded on an island. Castaway, it's more about the like the lone like Castaway is like the better movie in terms of like the emotions that you feel during it, but I just enjoyed Swiss Army Man a lot more because it was just a lot of funnier shit happens, and it's the amount of fun kind of outweighed all the shit that Castaway had. But Castaway is a good movie. Catalinaville. I think this is the one movie on here that's like it actually shouldn't be on here because this is literally I've only seen like it's a gay porno, and I've watched it with the porn edited out because it's got Steve Rambo, who's the guy who says like, "Oh shit, I'm sorry." That's Steve Rambo. It's a movie with him in it. I just Steve Rambo's all the clips with him are great. Catch 22 is really good. Mike Nichols, he's made a lot of good movies. Children of Men. It's in like it's just like no one's able to get pregnant. Like no women can get pregnant for some reason. And it's like the movie takes place like I think like 20 years after the last person was born, and just like it's kind of like a dystopian with Clive Owen. Michael Caine's in it. I can't remember any other actors, but it's a really good movie. Chinatown again, Roman Polanski classic. Circle is really cool. The entire movie takes place inside like this, just a big black room where you can't really see anything except like there's like 100 people in a circle, and it's kind of like a game of Mafia. It's like they just vote each other off one by one, and they just get like killed by like this weird machine until there's only one person left, and that's like basically that's the movie. You have like different groups of people are trying to like talk their way into like little like packs and shit. It's cool. Citizen Kane, yeah, Orson Welles. It's a good movie. City Lights, Charlie Chaplin, another just classic. City of God. This one's in Brazil, and I don't think it's like about like one of the like roughest slums. It was recorded in like one that was like nearby-ish, and it's a really, really good movie. City of Lost Children. This one's a French one that's really fucking weird. Like the villain is like this guy who can't dream, and he's like an evil scientist, and he captures children and then like puts them in this machine where like while they're sleeping their dreams are like what's the word, projected into like him, and so he like keeps stealing children, but they all get scared of him, so all the dreams turn to nightmares, so he needs to find like a fearless child. Like it's a fucking weird movie. Not for everyone, but it is really cool. Half of these I don't remember. Like City of Violence, I thought of the Viggo Mortensen, I think David Cronenberg movie. A History of Violence. So yeah, I'm mixing this shit up. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is one of the more fun, like 3D animated movies. Cloverfield, not for everyone, but if you like monster movies, it's good. Cold Souls has Paul Giamatti. I just fucking like Paul Giamatti. It's in the movie where it's like a machine can like extract people's souls, and you can like switch souls with people. And he's like an actor, and it's a good movie. Collateral, fuck, I don't remember. Also these Colossal. This one's like Anne Hathaway, where she learns that like she's like connected to this like giant monster in like South Korea, and she's like, what the hell? She's like kind of a not even an alcoholic, but just like she's got some issues, and as she's dealing with those, she's also dealing with like how she can apparate this giant monster, and like she doesn't want to hurt people. It's pretty interesting. Uh, let's see, Copland. It's arguably shouldn't be on this list. It's not that great, but it's all right. Crank 1 and Crank 2. These are Jason Statham's best fucking movies. They're just fucking fun action movies. Like Shoot 'Em Up. It's like the next. It's like in the same tier of just like they're just fucking great. Cube. This is an obscure kind of Canadian horror film. It's actually not that obscure. It's gotten like 2 sequels. It's basically just this like a giant cube structure where there's like 26 by 26 by 26 of like other cubes, and some of them have traps and they're deadly, and there's like people stuck in this giant like complex thing, and they're just trying to get out without getting killed, and it's like psychological horror movie. It's pretty neat. Dark City. It's probably not. I've only watched it once. It's probably not that as interesting on a repeated watches, but it it's neat. Dark Star, I think, is John Carpenter's first feature film. It's pretty neat. Das Boot, The Boat. It's about like a U-boat, and it's really fucking long. I think it's like 3+ hours, but it's really good movie. Dead Leaves is a really fucked up animated movie that has like most of the characters like kind of like robots and shit, and there's like I don't know, you can like see the art style, how it's really like eclectic, or I don't even know what to call this shit, but it's really cool. Dead Snow. These are just zombie movies where it's like, yeah, these like German, Nazi zombies, and then like the mountain. It's like you would know if you would like it based on the premise alone. The Dead Zone, David Cronenberg. Oh yeah, Christopher Walken, where it's like Christopher Walken's character is like the protagonist, and he kind of gets like these psychic powers where he can like see people's futures of like bad things that will happen to them. Death at a Funeral. I'm guessing this is the British one in 2007. Pretty sure there's an American remake, both of which have a Peter Dinklage. Death by Hanging. All right, this one's not for everyone. It's a Japanese movie about it's like, yeah, about a prisoner who's like sentenced to death. He's to be hanged, and right at the start, it's like all the guys are like in the process of like hanging this dude. They all do it all proper, and the guy just doesn't die. He just keeps on breathing, and they're like, the first half of the movie is mostly like, it's like just like philosophical, like what the hell? What do we do here? It's like, what should we do? It's like, we need to make sure he's dead, but it's like, should he be conscious of like, do we need to wait? And it gets into a lot more surreal shit, but it's a neat movie. Death Race, they're just shitty action comedies, much like Death Proof. Deathgasm. Oh yeah, shitty horror. Deer Hunter, Deliverance, kind of like classics. Demolition Man. Demolition Man really isn't that great. I don't know why I like it, but I do. Departed is based on it's like an English version of Infernal Affairs, a Chinese movie from like 3 or 4 years earlier. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty super famous. I'm pretty sure it's like an undercover cop, and is like he's investigating like this mafia ring, and in the mafia, there's one guy who's like a cop, and they're both like moles in each other's organization, and they need to like they're like they need to find each other and so you can kill the other guy first, and it's just a good premise. Uh, Detachment. Adrian Brody as a substitute teacher. It's a really good movie. Devil Wears Prada. Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway, Stanley Tucci. I like Stanley Tucci too. He's pretty much always good in whatever movie he plays. Dirty Harry, District 9. District B13. Oh, yeah, yeah. This is like a French action movie. A clip of like the start where it's like a guy running away from like a gang doing like all sorts of the what is it called, like parkour shit, and it's just like big stupid action movie, but it's a good action movie. Divine movie, you don't remember that? Philip Seymour Hoffman is in this one. Pretty much anything with Philip Seymour Hoffman is worth watching. Dredd. I actually watched Dredd. I was watching a bunch of Sylvester Stallone movies, and I watched like the Sylvester Stallone Judge Dredd, and then I watched this one for the first time. And it's like it's a really good action movie, but I was just totally fucking floored because I was expecting like Steven Seagal type garbage, and it's actually like a really good movie. Uh, Same with Drive, also really good. Drunken Masters, action comedies, yeah, like Jackie Chan's another guy who's like pretty much all the movies in are just fun movies. Was this Spielberg's first feature film? I know it's an early one. So like this guy who's like on a highway, and there's like this big 18-wheeler truck or something, and it just keeps like trying to like run him off the road or like basically kill him, and he's like, "What the fuck?" Dunkirk, that's Nolan's most recent film, is good. Eastern Promise. Oh yeah, it's a. I don't know what I can't remember what country it's in. It might just be Britain, but it's about like Russian mafia. Really good. Tim Burton's Tim Burton's kind of hit and miss, but most of it's still interesting or like you won't get bored during it. Elf, not for everyone, but it's one of Will Ferrell's more fun movies. Uh, Eraserhead, yeah, I guess if you want to know whether or not you like David Lynch, just watch like the first fucking 5 minutes of Eraserhead. And if you're thinking this is the dumbest shit I've ever seen, or like this is weird, but I want to see more, then you'll like him. Uh, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. This is one of the few movies Jim Carrey did that is not a comedy. It's like this guy's hire someone to get like this machine to like erase the memories of like his ex girlfriend, and the movie takes place like in his mind. He's like kind of deciding, is like, do I really want to do this? Maybe you can like try to retain some memories of her, and it's like a dreamscape kind of movie. It's pretty cool. Ex Machina. This kind of like well known. This I think I'm guessing it's well known because it was on Netflix. It was kept being in the like very it's popular or whatever fucking category. But it's like a dude makes a robot and gets this other dude to be like, "Yo, is this robot seem human to you?" And shit happens. Face Off. Uh, it's a very flawed movie, but it's a John Woo movie. It's still fun. Falling Down. This movie, all right. This one, I think it's Michael Keaton. I can't remember his name, but it's basically it's a guy who's like white collar dude. Kind of looks like Dilbert but more like straight laced. it's just at the start of like a really, is like going to work at the start of a really hot, like just shitty day, and he's like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm just gonna go home, enjoy myself, and he just gets like really angry and angrier and angrier until he just starts flips and he's like just starts doing some crazy shit. And if you ever had some like really angry thoughts, you'll probably think this movie is fucking hilarious because that's what I think of it. Wes Anderson movies. This had to have been one we passed by earlier by him. F is the first one, but it's another director I'd recommend a lot. First Blood. I've seen other like Rambo movies, and then I was like, well, I might as well watch the first one just to see what that's like. And this is, I was surprised because this is actually a good movie. Like the Rambo movies are just like action schlock. This is like, it's about a guy like, yeah, it's not like during the war, it's after the war. He comes back home to a country that like doesn't give a shit about him, and it's his life there, which is like probably it makes it just by default the best Rambo movie. Five Deadly Venoms. This is some peak kung fu shit right here. Flashpoint, I think, is a more modern kung fu. It's got Donnie Yen and other like, you know, contemporary kung fu dudes. Flight, Denzel Washington. He's like an alcoholic pilot, and it's his character who's like a very high functioning alcoholic, like, or no high functioning, or is it like someone who's, despite their like obvious addiction, they're still like very functional. Yeah, functional, like functional alcoholic. He's very good at his job, despite being having some pretty bad habits, and the movie's like shit happens, and it's like this character as he deals with stuff. If you haven't seen The Fly, or you like David Cronenberg, or what's his name? Star of this movie. I know his face. Jeff Goldblum. He stars in The Fly. Following is Christopher Nolan's like first film. It's really neat. It's like a noir film of this guy who just like, he just kind of develops a habit of just like stalking people, basically, not for any nefarious purposes, just to like, for the sake of it, just to see what they do and follow them around, and then gets caught up in some bad shit. Foxcatcher's interesting. It's like based on a real story, but it has like Steve Carell and Channing Tatum both act as like, they're not like funny characters. It's like really serious, but they both do like an incredibly good job at it. And it's just kind of, I guess I've never really seen them in anything but like goofier kind of roles, so it's like a good movie and like a surprising one for that. Frank, I guess, yeah, if I look Frank 2014, here's my list of cool stuff. It's it's like this band, and the leader of it is Frank, who is always wearing this giant like head. Oh, would that be a mask? Like if it's covering the whole head, whatever the fuck it is, he's wearing that. And his name's Frank, and he's just like, most of the movie is based on how what the fuck is this guy? Who he's really good at music, whoever he is. It's a fun movie. Freaks, old classic, would recommend. Same with The French Connection. Friday is basically a classic. It's not like old, but you know, big respect to Ice Cube, who rhymed subpoena with Bosnia Herzegovina. Full Metal Jacket is it's a Kubrick film. One is more famous, I think, just because it had a more wide appeal than some of the others. It's interesting to me one is how like the first third of the movie is like, the boot camp shit, and it's like mostly comedy, and then it gets like some of the uglier themes, and then second part is like soldiers as they're just in Vietnam and they're not really doing much, and then the last part is like, okay, shit's happening, and just like each like part has like a really different, like a completely different like vibe to it. Galaxy Quest, I don't know why this is a good movie. Everything about it just seems like it should be like super generic garbage, but it's just fucking fun, and I don't know why. It's like it's like about like the stars of a basically Star Trek kind of show, and like aliens invade, and then they take the guys from these shows, and there's like good aliens and bad aliens, and it's just like just dumb shit happens, and basically the people who are like pretend to be characters from Star Trek, they need to actually be them for a moment, and it's just I don't know how it ends up being fun, but it does. Game of Death is a Bruce Lee movie, so it's pretty much automatically awesome. Get Out, kind of, I think most people know as of recent that this is a hella good movie. Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell and Akira, I think, are one of my favorite animated movies. They're both just like stupid good. The Gift is a real not eerie, but like there's lots of like not like subplots, but like undertones to it. You're like not really sure what mood you're supposed to be getting from it, but you're feeling shit happening. You're just not really like understanding what you are feeling. So it's a drama with a lot of like weird shit going on, but not like David Lynch weird, just like more like Hitchcock weird, I guess. So weird is even then, I guess, yeah, most people think of weird Hitchcock would be like The Birds or some shit. So Gift is a good movie though. God Bless America. This movie is similar to Falling Down, but it's more of like rather than a guy who's like who just gets angry at the modern world, and he gets a straw that broke the camel's back from like stress or just shit like that. God Bless America's character who is like, he's not particularly stressed, but he just like the culture is what he gets pissed at. He's like, everything about like modern culture is fucking garbage, and that's what drives him to start, gunning people down. The Gods Must Be Crazy. These are like comedies of like in the, I can't remember where in Africa, but it's set in Africa, and they're both like just really good comedies on their own merit. I'd put them up there with like fucking The Full Monty, or maybe not as funny as Doctor Strangelove, but they're up there. They're really fucking good. Good, the Bad, and the Weird is a Japanese movie that's kind of takes like, yeah, it's the spirit of Sergio Leone movies. If you want to watch like a movie that's like those westerns, I'd recommend this one because it's got like big crazy. It mixes like the western with it, with the western aspects of it, with these three like super powered characters kind of, who just they're not like truly super powered, but they're just like crazy good at shooting. Great Dictator is a movie I'm surprised was even made. Because it's like set like, the Second World War is going on. I guess America wasn't in it then. But just, it's interesting that they made a movie. I guess more surprising would be the one with, not Jerry Lewis, but, fuck, what's it called? It's probably in here somewhere. It's Mel Brooks had a movie based on it. It's of like it's set in Poland, and fuck, I cannot remember it for the life of me. The name of it. I guess I'll just keep going. Grosse Point Blank is John Cusack plays like a hitman who goes to like a high school reunion, and it's it's it, it's a funny movie. Just it's if that premise sounds interesting, you probably like it. Groundhog Day, classic Bill Murray. The Guard. Oh, I think this movie has Brendan Gleeson. If I'm remembering it right. It's a good movie. The Guest is really good. Fuck it. What's the name of the dude? Dan Stevens. He's like a family. It's like one of their sons like died in like he's a soldier, died in a war, and then Dan Stevens' character, he's like, oh yeah, he comes to their house and he's like, I served with him, and like he asked me to like make sure you guys are all right, and he stays with them for a while, and like they keep just thinking like his character just gets weirder and weirder as it goes on, and they're like, oh, he's like super hardcore Black Ops type shit. Just Dan Stevens I actually really like as an actor. As far as like newer actors, I think he's he's got the most potential. He's in the TV show Legion, if you haven't seen it. Really, really fucking cool. What else is he in? He's probably in a movie somewhere else on here. I'll have to get to it. Half Nelson has a what's his name? Ryan Gosling as like a teacher who's kind of a piece of shit. But it's a good movie though. It's like set in kind of like a shitty neighborhood, shitty school, like, and it's just kind of just like everything's just like just a shitty area. Like I think his character's even like druggy, so it's just like a lot of shit, but it's a good movie. Halloween, John Carpenter. It's like the ultimate slasher movie. Excluding, I guess, depending whether or not you're talking about Psycho. If you include that as a slasher, some people consider Psycho the first slasher. It's kind of debatable. I don't know. Happiness, Philip Seymour Hoffman movie. This is like whenever someone asks me about like dark, or whenever I think about like dark comedy, this is what I think of. This movie is fucking dark comedy. Holy fuck. It's a really funny movie though. Hard Boiled, John Woo, Chow Yun Fat is like. There's a scene where Chow Yun Fat is literally jumping out of an exploding hospital while holding a baby, the last one to leave. This and I think The Killer, are both with John Woo and Chow Yun Fat, are like must-watch action movies. Hardcore Henry's another one that's really cool. It's an action, like a big crazy action movie, but it's like entirely in first person from the eyes of Henry, who does all sorts of like John Woo style type crazy shit. Harvey, I think if this is the one I'm thinking of, it's got Jimmy Stewart, James not Stewart, the guy from fucking Rear Window and like Hitchcock movies. Jimmy Stewart? Is it Jimmy Stewart? It sounds wrong to me. Whatever, it's like that guy. He's like, he has an imaginary friend that's like a 7-foot tall rabbit, and like his family thinks he's crazy, and they try to like confine him and make sure like other people don't find out how fucking crazy he is. But he's just like a genuinely nice guy who likes to introduce people to his friend Harvey. Hobo with a Shotgun is another Rutger Hauer movie, and as far as like ultra violent movies, it's probably the very best one. It's like exactly what it tries to be. It just hits the like arrow right on the fucking bullseye. Host is a really good monster movie. Gonna watch a monster movie. Would recommend. Hudson Hawk is really fucking weird. Because I could see like a lot of people would fucking hate this movie if they wanted to watch like a Bruce Willis like action movie. And I think it was originally like marketed to that, where like this is not an action movie, it's just like a really stupid comedy movie, like really goofy. And like depending on the mindset going in, you could either really fucking hate it or just, have a good time laughing at how stupid it is. Hunt is really interesting. It's of a he plays Hannibal in Casino Royale. He played Le Chiffre in Death Stranding. He's the guy Hideo Kojima fucking loves, and he's the bad guy. Mads Mikkelsen. It's like his character. He's like works at like a school, like kindergarten type, and he's like falsely accused of like being like a child molester, and like the town is against him, and he's trying to like be like, whoa, like this is not me. And it's like a lot of shit happens. Hurt Locker, really fucking good movie. Guy Pearce. Oh no, Guy Pearce. Yeah, Guy Pearce is in it. He's not the main character. I think it's Jeremy Renner. But it's like a bomb defusal squad type shit. So it's like automatically there's going to be some pretty intense, like really tense parts of the movie. Would recommend. Alright, yeah, both of these are movies that have really weird. Like, I'm Not a Serial Killer. It's a guy who's like, he has like he's like a kind of like a kid who's like high school, and he's like kind of sociopathic, and he's like I've read up on like all the traits of like serial killers, and it's like I might turn into one of these guys, and he's like trying to like make sure it doesn't happen, and it turns out there's someone else in the town who's like really really bad, and you kind of just like you learn who they are really quick, and it's like they kind of have it's not so much a dialogue, but the movie's like between like the relationship between these two, and like whether this kid is going to be really bad or not. It's kind of weird. I don't feel at home in this world anymore. It's a woman who's like, I can't remember. Did she lose her dog? I can't remember the main plot points, but it's her and Elijah Wood, who are really fucking weird characters who end up going into like hardcore criminals' houses and shit, and just a bunch of funny shit happens. Would recommend it. I love Philip Morris as Jim Carrey and Ewan McGregor is like lovers. I think it's based on a real person too, where Jim Carrey's character, he's just like a con artist who's just like super like he's really good at being a confidence man. And it's a funny movie. Akira Kurosawa as another like legendary director. Akira is like a guy who's he's like 50, 60 years old, and he has like an office job, and he learns that like he has cancer, and he's probably gonna die soon, and he's like, man, like my job is fucking meaningless. I haven't done anything with my life, and it's of him like trying to like accomplish something, or like in like while dealing with his mortality. It's a really good movie. Illusionist. Oh yeah, this is the French animated movie. It's mostly silent actually. I don't think there's much dialogue, if any. It's of like this a magician set in like the 70s or 80s, and like his like his life's work and stuff, it's just going out of style. People don't want to see magicians. They want to see like shitty punk bands, and he's kind of just he's being like phased out of society. But there's like one girl who's like, wow, she really believes that he's like doing real magic, and she like kind of like follows him around, and it's those two. That's what the movie's about. In Bruges is probably one of Colin Farrell's best movies. In the Mouth of Madness has one of the greatest endings. to any movie. It's a John Carpenter movie. It's great. Ip Man or Donnie Yen movies. If you like kung fu, It Follows is a. It's like a. Yeah, it's like a horror movie, but it's like the horror is. It's like the monster in it. It's just like a really slow moving monster. It's like this. It'll take the form of a human who's just always walking toward you, or like the nearest path towards you, and the person like you last had sex with, like if you have sex with someone, it'll follow them instead until it kills them, and then it'll like go back and then it'll go to you, and then the last person you had sex with, it's pretty much having like a very slow moving like invincible monster. It's just a good way to have tension, and the movie like really does a good job at that. It's a good movie. Uh, let's see. Jacob's Ladder, I think, has a Tim Robin, guy from like Shawshank Redemption. I think that's his name. He's like a soldier who his like crew, like the CIA did like drug testing on them during the war, and he doesn't remember a lot of shit from it, and he's trying to like unravel his memories by like talking to other people through the shit that happened. And it's like it's a very surreal movie because it's like there's some like psychedelic shit that happens, and it's not really like a comedy by any means. It's pretty Jinro the Wolf Brigade, like legendary animated movie. John Wick, Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves might not be like a great actor, but I still really like him as an actor. Maybe it's just that he's just a really cool guy. It just comes off in the characters he plays. Killer John Woo. King's Speech is a really good movie. It's got Colin Firth, but it's just like how simple the movie is. It is, of like it's like a guy who has like he has trouble like public speaking, and then he gets good at it, or better at least. And it's like that. That's the movie. It's very simple in terms of shit that happens, but it's like or the problems, but it's still really good. And right beside it, yeah, Kingsman, The Secret Service of another movie with Colin Firth that's really entertaining. Kung Fu Hustle is probably like the most. It's probably it's not the best action kung fu movie, but it certainly is the most entertaining kung fu movie. It's fucking great. Uh, LA Confidential is really good. I think it's got a lot of big names: Guy Pearce, Russell Crowe, Kevin Spacey. Yeah, this is like 20 years ago, Kevin Spacey. So back then he was a cool dude, or known as a cool dude. I know there's other big name actors in it, but it's of like a bunch of cops, and like some of they learn that it's like Guy Pearce's character. He's like a cop who's like, I'm not corrupt at all. I'm gonna be like perfectly straight edge. And Russell Crowe's he's like, all right, I've done some shady shit as a cop, and they like the movie's mainly about like the two of them, and they're dealing with shit. Last King of Scotland. This is a movie with Forrest Whitaker playing Idi Amin. And if you don't know who either of those two are, you should probably watch this movie because it's a really good movie where Forrest Whitaker is a really good actor playing a very, very fucked up dictator of Uganda during the. I think he was in power during the 70s and 80s. I don't remember when he was killed or when he died or whatever. Last Man on Earth is a Vincent Price movie. If you like Vincent Price like I do, you probably like it. Lego Movie, if you haven't seen it, it's actually a really good movie. Leon the Professional has fuck, what's his name? John Reno? Is that his name? Whatever it is, it's like that guy, and he's like a hitman who like befriends this kid and kind of like just teaches her. I think she's played by like very young Natalie Portman, I think, and like just teaches her like, oh, I guess I'll just train you to be a hitman, and it's a really weird movie, but it's a good movie. Let the Right One In is a vampire movie, but it's like this, yeah, it's like a kid who's just like 9, 10 years old, kind of befriends this vampire, and then like a lot of it's just a lot of creepy shit happens, but it's like the kid they just stay friends throughout all of it. Uh, Lifeboat is a Hitchcock movie that takes place entirely on a lifeboat, where there's like people like a German U-boat sunk like a cruise ship or something, and it's got like a bunch of people from the cruise ship or whatever the ship was, and then like one German soldier, and they're all on this boat, and it's like a one-room movie that's really well done. Little Miss Sunshine, like I presume a lot of people know this movie because it's like a won awards and shit. I'm pretty sure it's a really great comedy. The Lobster, yeah, Yorgos Lanthimos. Yeah, that's the one that I now remember. The Killing of a Sacred Deer, also directed by this guy whose name I can't pronounce. Also starring Colin Farrell. Both The Killing of a Sacred Deer and but The Lobster are both really good movies. The Lobster, it's in this universe where it's like everyone, it's like required that you be in like like you're a couple, you're in a relationship with someone, and people who are single are like sent to like a this kind of like resort thing where it's like, all right, you got like 2 weeks, find a partner, or we turn you into an animal. And this guy is like, he's like, well, if you do want to turn me into one, turn me into a lobster, and that's like where the movie gets its name from. And it's just like the whole universe is really fucking weird, and it's another contender for like best ending ever in a movie. Guy Ritchie movies are like super British, and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels is one of like Jason Statham's earlier-ish movies. Is it really 88 or is it 98? I'm actually gonna Google that. Yeah, it's 1998, not 88. And this one's it's like mafia guys, a bunch of like shit happens, and there's like several factions of bad guys, and just goofy shit happens. It's like super stylish crime movie. Locke is interesting. It's kind of like our One Room movie. It has uh fuck played Mad Max in Fury Road, Bane in the Tom Hardy. It pretty much most of the shit you see is like him in this car driving, and it's him like talking to people on like the car phone, and you realize it's like he was in a relationship with someone, but he like cheated on them, and the person he cheated on is like that woman is having a baby, and it's of him like driving to where the hospital she's at, while talking to people like all of like the life he's leaving behind, of the job and his wife and all that, and it's like all you see is like the car and like shots of like him driving around, but it's still manages to be interesting. Lockout is a like sci-fi action movie that's just like a big sci-fi prison that has like a big lockdown, and Guy Pearce is sent in to like fix shit. It's just a fun action movie. Uh, Fritz Lang. This is one of my fucking favorite movies. Goddamn. It's Fritz Lang's I think first non-silent movie. It's like M. It's Peter Lorre. He's in like Casablanca, a lot of like schlocky horror movies. He plays like this like a serial killer who's like a scourge on this town. And like the police, the criminal is like everyone's trying to find this guy, and he's just a. It's a really tense movie that has lots of like shit going on, and it's just brilliantly directed. Absolutely, like top tier recommendation. And then Machete, fucking Danny Trejo, as like a just a extreme badass. It's just a fun movie. It's like polar opposite to M in terms of vibes. Machinist has a fuck. I thought it was directed by someone I knew. It might be. I just don't have the name here. But it's got Christian Bale in one of his like better acting roles, where he's this guy who's like. It seems like he's he like it's extreme insomnia. Hasn't slept in like forever. Like hasn't gotten like a decent sleep in like years, and he's dealing with a lot of psychological shit. It's a good movie. Magnolia. This movie's really fucking long, but it's really fucking good. It's got several characters, each that are like dealing with a lot of like deep shit. Ranging from like Tom Cruise is this like men's rights activist type like public speaker dude. He's like respect the cock. John C. Reilly is a cop who ends up like doing some shit wrong. A kid who's on like a game show, and he's like a child prodigy, and he's like making all sorts of money for his dad, and his dad like doesn't really give a shit about him. He just wants the money. And like the other kids, they don't really do any work. It's like everyone's like just using him, and it's like all these characters that are just like just shit's going on. Man from Uncle is like a secret agent movie that's just also more like comedy than like it's not really any suspense. It's just a action comedy. It's pretty good though. Uh, Manhunter has it's like a from the series or whatever that like Hannibal Lecter's from. It's I think it was the first movie with like those characters in it. It's not as good as Silence of the Lambs, but it's still pretty good. Marion Max is a really really good like claymation movie. Philip Seymour Hoffman voices Max. It's like this Australian like little girl who starts like a like just writes a letter to like a random American and asking questions, and they're like begin like a pen pal relationship, and it's really fucking funny. Really good movie. The Master, another Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Magnolia. The Master has like a Philip Seymour Hoffman. He's like a leader of this cult, and the movie's really about like a Joaquin Phoenix character. Joaquin Phoenix's character is like a soldier who's like he was like already fucked up before the war. He's kind of like fucked up after. He's just the movie's not about the cult. It's about him like dealing with all of his shit. And he first gets absorbed into this cult where he's like, yeah, this is like it's gonna be like a direction in my life. This is gonna give meaning, and it's like it's of him like overcoming his own faults. Really good movie. Uh, Metropolis, Fritz Lang. It's like the first blockbuster action movie from which everything is every blockbuster action movie. It's like this is what it's trying to be. Like it's some spiritual level. It's like a sci-fi movie, like a dystopia, where the son of like the world's richest man who like owns all the like is like huge corporate overlord, and the son is just like a naive of all that shit, and it's like the son's kind of like the main character, and he's like, wait a minute, my dad's an asshole, uh, and shit happens. Mm. Moon. Yeah, Kevin Spacey, the voice role of it's like on the moon. There's this guy who's like has a really isolated job where he's doing some kind of energy shit, and you learn that like eventually when it's like, oh, there's like a double of him, and it's a very psychological drama. If you're into, if you want some like psychological shit, would recommend Moon. Moulin Rouge. It's just a. It's basically a Bollywood movie, but in English, direct, and it's like made with like people who are English as a first language and all that. But it's like spiritually a Bollywood film. So if you ever like watched a Bollywood movie where it's just like forbidden love and with every character breaking out into song for no reason, that's what Moulin Rouge is. Mulan, it's like like all the Disney princesses are shit. The only good ones are the ones that aren't princesses. Mulan being the best, obviously. Murder by Death. Oh yeah, it's got Peter Sellers. Oh, not Peter Sellers. Oh yeah, I think he is in it. The guy who plays Columbo. What's his name? Peter Falk. And it's like a bunch of these like super detectives, Sherlock Holmes types, go to this mansion invited by a guy who's trying to fool them all, and it's just they're all like stereotypes, and it's just a mystery slapstick comedy parody or satire of other similar mystery movies. Mystery Man has William H. Macy, who I like a lot. He's in Fargo, which is probably what he's most famous for. Coen Brothers movie. Night of the Hunter. This is an old classic film, and it's another like. It's surprising how the story of it is very simple. Where at the very start, it's like this dad. He like robbed a bank or some shit, and he like gives all the money to his kids, and he's just like, "Yo, hide this shit." And then the dad like gets caught, goes to prison, and in prison like there's like this priest dude who like learns from the dad that like, oh, his kids are like hiding some money, and this priest dude is like he's not a priest, he's kind of a priest, but he's fucking evil, and he's like just he like goes to where the kids live, and he just kind of like makes the wife he's like a manipulator. He gets everyone likes him. He's just only the kids know that he's really fucking a bad guy, and they have to like if he finds out where the money is, he will kill those kids. Like he's a bad dude, and it's like the kids are like just trying to avoid death. It's a very simple story in that sense of like bad guys trying to find where the money is and then take it, and it's really iconic though. Good movie. Nightcrawler. This is a movie. Fucking Jake Gyllenhaal. He plays a character who is like a just total sociopath. Like from the very start of the movie, you learn that this guy is a total piece of shit, and he's like gets into the business of like, oh, I'm just gonna like. He gets like a cop radio, and whenever there's like a crimes reported, he just like gets a video camera and tries to like film it to sell it to news stations, and he gets like he gets good at it, and he's just a terrible person. Really good movie. No Country for Old Men, Coen Brothers, must watch. North by Northwest, Hitchcock, must watch. Office Space, legendary comedy. Old Boy, this is a Korean movie that's really interesting. It's like action. It's basically just a big dumb action movie that tries to pass itself off as being smarter than it really is, but it's like this guy who's like kidnapped and put in a room for like 20 years or some shit, and he gets let out, and the guy who like imprisoned him, he's like, all right, I give you like 1 week to, or like I think it's like 1 day or 2 days to like find out why I like locked you in a room for 20 years. And the guy like fights his way into finding out all this shit. There's a few really good fight scenes in it though. 1 Hour Photo has Robin Williams in a very non-comedic role. I think this and Insomnia with Christopher Nolan are two roles where it's like he is not a funny guy, but it's still like a really good movie. Ong Bak, the Thai warrior. The guy who stars in this is in a lot of really, really good action movies. Would recommend. The other guys, Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe in like an action comedy. It's more comedy than action, but it's a good movie. Oni Mahoney's Philip Seymour Hoffman. Good shit. Paprika, I think, is actually the. It's like an animated film, and it's like Inception from Christopher Nolan has like. It's a lot. It's like inspired pretty much off of this movie. It's like a lot of shots and like dream parts. It's like, yeah, it's like a machine where it's like, oh, you can like be like lucid dreams and control dreams and join other people's dreams, and a lot of the shit from Inception. It's like this was doing it a couple years prior, and it's does it with animated, so there's a lot more dream-like shit going on as well. Patchwork, it's like a horror action comedy where it's like these three women are like kidnapped and like stitched together in like a big crazy evil science experiment, and then they're like they gain like all the strength of all three, and they start like beating the shit out of people trying to figure out like who did this. I'm gonna beat the shit out of them, and it's really good. Persepolis is a really interesting movie. It's animated about a girl living in where the fuck is it? It's in the Middle East somewhere. Persepolis film. Iran. Okay. And it's like, yeah, it's a coming of age movie of a girl growing up in Iran where women's rights aren't exactly, stellar, and it's a really good movie. Uh, Phone Booth is another like it's kind of like a one room movie. It has Colin Farrell, who's like basically trapped in a phone booth because like someone phones it and he like answers it, and it's like Kiefer Sutherland who's like watching him with a sniper rifle, and if he leaves, he'll like kill someone. And it's like a one room movie of like him, and everyone thinks that Colin Farrell's character has like a gun and he's doing all sorts of. He's the one who's like shooting people doing bad shit, and he's like he needs to like try and convince people like it's not him. I can't leave, or like more people will die, and it's just like very few movies that do like a one room kind of scenario end up doing it like well, and this one I think it did it like as well as it can be, and it's not like amazing, but it is good. Pirates of Penzance, it's yeah, Gilbert and Sullivan musical. It's just a movie based on it, and if you know what that is, you'd probably like it. Pitch Black, I think it was the first Riddick movie, and it's the only good one, and it's actually really good. Uh, Primer is like a time travel movie that's it tries to be like as scientifically accurate as possible with beyond just like and yeah, which basically just necessitates that it's fucking impossible to understand. It turns into like it's like there's so much weird shit being entangled and plot points covering each other. It starts where it's like, all right, you learn like how this machine that where like works, where they can pseudo time travel, and then it's like, all right, weird shit just instantly starts like snowballing, and it gets really crazy. Producers, legendary Mel Brooks comedy. For those who don't know what this is, there's literally a song, no, an entire play in it called "Springtime for Hitler." If that doesn't sound interesting to you, you probably just are a boring person. Punch Drunk Love, proving once again that the only movies with Adam Sandler are good are the ones where he has the least creative control. This one's directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. It's a good movie. The Raid, Raid 1 is like, yeah, it's like Dread, where it's like, cops locked in a building and shit's going on. Raid 2 is just like, it's the same character, but he's just doing action everywhere. It doesn't have the same like psychological like tension, but it's just basically just a bunch of fight scenes, and they're good. Ron Akira Kurosawa, it's his first color film, I think, and I've never read or seen anything based on King Lear, like Shakespeare thing. So when I first saw this, I was like floored, like better than Seventh Samurai or like most movies I've seen. Like it's fucking really good. Reanimator is like legendary sci-fi horror. Would recommend. It's a lot of fun. Redline is like basically F-Zero the movie. It's like a crazy animated racing movie that's just a lot of fun. Let's see. Salt of the Earth is interesting mainly because it came out the same year as On the Waterfront. Yeah, 1954, and On the Waterfront is starring Marlon Brando, of a guy who's like fighting like corrupt unions off like a union head, and the movie was like lauded by critics and shit. And Salt of the Earth is kind of something. It's about like it's like the opposite in terms of it's like about a union fighting against like a corporate corruption, and Salt of the Earth was like it was severely hated because like viewed as like being like communist garbage, but it's a lot more like it's based on like real people and like real stories, and it has just so much more feeling to it. Uh, and it's just interesting how like On the Waterfront, just the media at the time were like praising that movie and then not giving like criticizing this one. Where like Salt of the Earth, I think, is literally like the better movie, and it's just since it was like, oh no, unions, that's communism. It's just politically, I guess, is interesting to some point. Sanjuro, for those who don't know, the Sergio Leone like Man with No Name, Clint Eastwood movies, like the character was originally from Akira Kurosawa. This movie, I don't know if it was based on a book or anything, but it's like a samurai who's like a badass dude, and he seems like he's like a bad guy, but he's got a good heart, and he in the end he fucks up those bad guys. Savages, Philip Seymour Hoffman, good movie. Scanners, oh yeah, I was thinking, why do I know this movie? It has the most iconic death, I think, in any movie, or at least certainly the most iconic head explosion in a movie. Because if a movie has a guy whose head just explodes, like that, it's at least gonna be like fun to watch for that moment at least. And this one is like fucking legendary. It's people who have it's about people who have like, called scanners or whatever, and they have like kind of like mind reading powers, and it's a good movie. Secret of Kells is like an Irish animated movie that has a really really cool art style. I think Song of the Sea was also made by the same company. See No Evil, Hear No Evil is Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder. They made a bunch of movies together, and this one's probably the best one. Just because like Richard Pryor's character is blind and Gene Wilder is deaf, and they're both like kind of like denying that they have those disabilities while doing. They get caught up in like a bunch of shit. Uh, Seventh Seal is interesting. It's Ingmar Bergman. He's like I haven't seen many of his movies, but he's another like legendary director. Seventh Seal being about like this old. It's like I think like 16th, 17th century knight. Well, probably earlier than that actually. Who's like he's like death comes to him and he's like, all right, it's your time, and he's like, yeah, all right, I'm ready to die. And then like he eventually like he play like challenges death to like a game of chess, and they play it over like the course of like a few days or a week or whatever, and it's like this. The other night he's like, I mean, like he like yeah he's prepared to die, but he's questioning like what have I done anything like meaningful with my life, and it's like the him and death kind of like interact with a bunch of characters inadvertently, and it's really cool. Shaolin Soccer, same guy who made Kung Fu Hustle. It's not as good as Kung Fu Hustle, but it's in the same like tier of comedy. Uh, the Shipping News, another Kevin Spacey movie that I think is like most people probably wouldn't think is that great, but if you're it's based in Newfoundland, so the Newfies would probably like it. Shoot 'em Up is Clive Owen, Paul Giamatti, top tier action movie. Sita Sings the Blues is a really cool movie, animated movie about uh like fuck I is it Hinduism? The character like Sita, who is the wife of Ram Ramayana. I'm really not familiar with the Rama. Okay, and it's like it's good movie, cool movie. Uh, Six String Samurai. It's like in 1964 or whatever. Like the world, there's like some nuclear war or some shit, and it's like this guy is like a samurai and he has like a guitar, and there's like it's just like rockabilly like 50s music is like just it that's like the hot shit that everyone likes, and everyone's got like guitars and swords, and it's if that doesn't immediately strike you as being awesome, then you probably won't like this movie. If it does though, then you'll love it. Snowpiercer, really cool movie. Entire thing's like set on a train, and it's like the world's like basically like frozen to shit, and the only people left alive, or like anything left alive, is on this train that's just like it's got like some super engine. It's basically like perpetual motion or whatever the fuck. It's just like it's always never stops, and like all the poor people are in the back and the rich are in the front, but it ends up being like still a really fucking cool action movie. Well, directed by the same guy who directed The Host, I believe, and some other cool movies. Spy Time. This is like a secret agent movie. I think it's Spanish, but it's like this secret agent dude. Like his like arch enemy is like tries to like kill this dude's son, and the son is like the main character basically, and his dad is like like the secret agent. He's like trying to like save him, and it's just it's really fucking funny. A lot of good action scenes too. And Spy Came In From the Cold. It's a spy movie, but it's not a comedy at all. It's like really fucking gritty. Really good movie though. Still, Suicide Shop is a really fucking weird French animated movie where it's like this whole world that's like just everything sucks and nothing is ever good. So there's a lot of like the only people who are like making money are these guys who just sell like one bullet revolvers and like poisons and like stuff to kill yourself with. It's really fucking bleak. And then like the owner of this shop, he gets a son who's just happy all the time, and he tries to make the world a better place. Like It's not for everyone. Uh, Philip Seymour Hoffman movie. This one's kind of abstract. Probably most people wouldn't really like it. Tekgon King Creed. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. It's another like animated movie with a really weird art style. Like all the kids in this movie kind of like have like superpowers, or they're like flying around and shit. And like the mafia dudes, they don't have powers, but like they got guns and they're like mature, and it's a cool movie though. It's weird. Tetsuo the Iron Man. This is like a fucking weird movie. It's like a guy who's like turning into like this, just turning into like iron parts of him converted to iron, and it's I don't know what like genre it started, but it's like it's really like, I guess it's the equivalent of like noise rock to music. That's what this did for movies. It's it's weird. They Live. I fucking love this movie. It's another John Carpenter. Like, just John Carpenter's movies are all great. At least all the ones I think I've seen. Third Man, Orson Welles, Legendary. Uh, Trainspotting's really good. Tremors, This is like, this is one of the best monster movies. It spawned a series, and every movie in this series is like, it's just a fun monster movie. Uh, like if you just want to watch a monster movie, like fucking Tremors is great. Triplets of Belleville, another fucking weird French animated movie. It's really good though. Uh, Truman Show. I imagine like just the premise of this. I'm pretty sure everyone's heard, like knows about. Of like, this guy's like, his life is a TV show, and he's the only one who doesn't know it. Like everyone, since his like conception, everything's been like filmed about around him. Turbo Kid, really, like, dystopian kind of setting, and it's like this kid who wants to be like a hero, and it's just everything sucks, and it's like an action comedy. It's pretty fun. Uh, Under the Skin is Scarlett Johansson is like this alien chick who like, it's not really explicitly stated, but she like, basically she kills like men to like live, and she's kind of like gains a, at first she doesn't really care, but then she slowly starts to like gain a conscience or some shit. It's a weird movie. uh Videodrome, David Cronenberg, like a weird surreal horror movie. The Voices has Ryan, not Ryan Gosling, Ryan Reynolds. He plays this guy who like hears voices in his head. I think it's like his dog and his cat, and the cat like makes him do evil shit, and the dog's like nice, and he ends up like killing people and shit. But it plays itself out as like a mostly a comedy, and it's like when he's on meds, everything. Oh no, when he's off his meds, everything's all nice and happy, and when he like takes medication, he sees like the shit he's really doing, and he's like, holy fuck. And like he himself isn't a bad guy, but the voices, they make him do some bad shit. Uh, it's a fun movie. Waking Life is interesting. Much like a Scanner Darkly, like the entire thing is it was like filmed and then like rotoscoped into a animated. Waking Ned Divine. It's, yeah. This is like I don't know if a lot of people have seen it, but it's like, it's mostly about like old people in like fuck, I don't know where it is, but somewhere in like the UK, and most a town of like mostly elderly people, and one guy like he wins the lottery, but he dies of a heart attack from winning it, and the other like guys in the town are like, well, it's like we could just pretend one of us is him, and then we can get the money and we'll split it, and then like they're trying to like put up this huge fraud thing. Yeah, like Ned Devine is the one who like died, and they're just it's just a comedy, and it's a fun movie. Walk Hard, John C. Riley is like a it's like a fake biopic of like a music legend who's like a combination of every like idol. It's pretty fun. Wallace and Gromit, just it's fucking peak claymation. Waltz with Bashir, holy shit. This is a animated movie that's like it's fucking amazing. To fix, yeah, it's like about these people. It's like a bunch of soldiers who are like a guy who's like trying to like talk about his memories from the war, and like talks to other people of like their memories from the war and how their memories are like all like just it talks. It's like about memories about the war, about like shit. It's just there's so much shit in this movie. It's really good. Coming pretty much to the end of the list here. This is yeah, let's go. Let's see. Bit of a The Witch. This probably isn't for everyone, but it has the Anya Taylor Joy or whatever, the girl who's like in a Split, who her eyes are really far apart. I don't know how else to describe her, but that girl, she's like a star in this. It's like a family in like 17th something like century, and it's just they're like super religious, and the family like gets cast off from this village, and just it's just everything shit, and weird shit starts happening. It's more for like the suspenseful kind of horror that most people probably like. The people who just only want gore horror, they wouldn't like it. uh and that's it for my movie recommendations. Let's look at the bad ones. These are pretty much the ones that are like really really fucking like Death Racer's an Asylum movie. The people that made like Sharknado or all those crap movies. Like Death Racers is fucking hilarious. It's a bad movie, but it's funny. Same with where is it? Max Knight Ultra. This should honestly be in movies worth watching because this is actually just a really fucking fun action movie of like of about Max Knight Ultra Spy. It's just fucking great. In fact, yeah, I'm gonna just put that in Max Knight Ultra Spy because it's actually a fucking fun movie. Like it's low budget, but it's still. I'll just put it here-ish, and then bit of a use the sort range. That'll figure it out. Anyway, delete that. Some other shit in here. Nothing particularly special. Rubber. Some people might think this is absolutely hilarious. Most people would probably think it's total garbage. I'm not sure what I think of it. Basically, it's about like a tire that gets conscience and starts killing people. It's like telekinetic powers. It certainly starts strong, but it doesn't really last. Anyway, yeah, that's my movie recommendations.